Wall Street Book Club. Evan Jefferson, brother, much love. Educating, elevating, because in knowledge is the power and we'll never give it up. Literature that's for the masses. Where to put your money down, now how to watch your assets. Yeah, uplifting others is a passion. My brother Evan, he will turn it into action. New Black Wall Street Book Club. You should come read with us. Yeah, we comprehend and discuss. If we all just come together, there's no limit for us. Here comes your host, New Black Wall Street. Evan, take it away. New Black Wall Street Book Club.
All right, beautiful people, man. Good day to you. Thanks so much for joining us today on today's episode of the New Black Wall Street Book Club, where Black folk do read. You put it in the book, and we absolutely will find it. I'm your host, ERGJ, Certified Global Financial Educator, CEO of ERGJ Enterprises and the Black Bazaar. I'm also an international best-selling author of the book, The Black Billionaires Club. You can find that book by simply going to the website, theblackbillionairesclub.com. That's theblackbillionairesclub.com. Check out the store at theblackbazaar.com as well. And I'd love to be able to help you on your journey to success. We're going to continue our journey into a book called The Atomic Habits by James Clear. This book is talks about an easy and proven way to build good habits and to break bad ones. And today we are into chapter number 7, which is the secret to self-control. The secret to self-control. Last chapter we covered, we talked about motivation being overrated, but environment often matters more. Your environment, who you're around, who you hang around, things like that. And today we're going to be talking about self-control. So let's get right into it, guys. I don't want to take up too much of your time. I want to find out what Mr. Clear has for us here today. It's a very short chapter, so we can probably get this done in about 15 minutes or so. But this is a part of a daily routine for me. I just truly believe that if you can take 30 minutes a day doing things that affect your mind, your body, your soul, 30 minutes of reading, 30 minutes of exercise, 30 minutes of meditation, really help you to really take control of your life, change your life in phenomenal ways, bring clarity to your life, bring health to your body, and bring peace to your soul. 30 minutes a day to keep broke, busted, and stupid away. The Secret to Self-Control, chapter number 7, New Black Wall Street Book Club. Let's read. In 1971, as the Vietnam War was headed into the 16th year, Congressman Robert Steele from Connecticut and Morgan Murphy from Illinois made a discovery that stunned the American public. While visiting the troops, they had learned that over 15% of the U.S. soldiers stationed there were heroin addicts. Follow-up research revealed that 35% of the service members in Vietnam had tried heroin, and as many as 20% were addicted. The problem was even worse than they had initially thought. The discovery led to a flurry of activity in Washington, including the creation of a Special Action Office of Drug Abuse Prevention under President Nixon to promote prevention and rehabilitation and to track addicted service members when they returned home. Lee Robbins was one of the researchers in charge, and a finding that completely upended the accepted beliefs about addiction. Robbins found that when soldiers had been heroin users, returned home, only 5% of them became re-addicted within a year, and just 12% relapsed within 3 years. In other words, approximately 9 out of 10 soldiers who used heroin in Vietnam eliminated their addiction nearly overnight. This finding contradicted the prevailing view at the time, which considered heroin addiction to be a permanent and irreversible condition. Instead, Robbins revealed that addictions could spontaneously dissolve if there was a radical change in the environment. In Vietnam, soldiers spent all day surrounded by cues triggering heroin use. It was easy to access. They were engulfed by the constant stress of war. They built friendships with fellow soldiers who were also heroin users, and they were thousands of miles from home. Once a soldier returned to the United States, though, he found himself in an environment devoid of those triggers. When the context changed, so did the habit. When the context changed, so did the habit. Compare the situation to that of a typical drug user. Someone becomes addicted at home or with friends, goes to a clinic to get clean, which is devoid of all the environmental stimuli that prompted their habit, then returns to their old neighborhood with all of their previous cues that caused them to be addicted in the first place. It's no wonder that usually you see numbers that are typically opposite of those in the Vietnam study. Typically, 90% of heroin users become re-addicted once they return home from rehab. The Vietnam studies ran counter to many of our cultural beliefs about bad habits because it challenged the conventional association of unhealthy behavior as a moral weakness. If you are overweight, a smoker, or an addict, you've been told your entire life that it is because of your lack of self-control. Maybe even that you're a bad person. The idea that a little bit of discipline will solve all of our problems is deeply embedded in our culture. Recent research, however, shows something different. When scientists analyze people who appear to have tremendous self-control, it turns out those individuals aren't all that different from those who are struggling. Instead, disciplined people are better at structuring their lives in a way that does not require heroic willpower or self-control. In other words, they spend less time in tempting situations. The people with the best self-control are typically ones who need to use it the least. It's easier to practice self-restraint when you don't have to use it very often. So yes, perseverance, grit, and willpower are essential to success, but the way to improve these qualities is not by wishing you were a more disciplined person, but by creating a more disciplined environment. By creating a more disciplined environment. This counterintuitive idea makes even more sense once you understand what happens when a habit is formed in the brain. A habit that has been eroded in the mind is ready to be used whenever the relevant situation arises. When Patty Allwell, a therapist from Austin, Texas, started smoking, she would often light up while riding horses with a friend. Eventually, she quit smoking and avoided it for years. She had also stopped riding. Decades later, she hopped on a horse again and found herself craving a cigarette for the first time in forever. The cues were still internalized. She just hadn't been exposed to them in a long time. Once a habit has been encoded, the urge to act follows whenever the environmental cues reappear. This is one reason behavior change techniques can backfire. Shaming obese people with weight loss presentations can make them feel stressed. And as a result, many people return to their favorite coping strategy, overeating. Showing pictures of blackened lungs to smokers leads to a higher level of anxiety, which drives many people to reach for a cigarette. If you're not careful about cues, you can cause the very behavior you want. You can cause the very behavior you want to stop. Bad habits are autocatalytic. The process feeds itself. They foster the feelings they try to numb. You feel bad, so you eat junk food. Because you eat junk food, you feel bad. Watching television makes you feel sluggish, so you watch more television because you don't have the energy to do anything else. Worrying about your health makes you feel anxious, which causes you to smoke to ease your anxiety, which makes your health even worse. And soon you're feeling more anxious. It's a downward spiral, a runaway train of bad habits. Researchers refer to this phenomenon as cue-induced wanting. An external trigger causes a compulsive craving to repeat a bad habit. Once you notice something, you begin to want it. This process is happening all the time, often without us realizing it. Scientists have found that showing addicts a picture of cocaine for just 33 milliseconds stimulates the reward pathway in the brain and sparks desire. This speed is too fast for the brain to consciously register. The addicts couldn't even tell you what they had seen, but they craved the drug all the same. Here's the punchline. You can break a bad habit because you are unlikely to forget it. But once the mental grooves of habit have been carved into your brain, they are nearly impossible to remove entirely, even if they go unused for quite a while. And that means that simply resisting temptation is an ineffective strategy. It is hard to maintain a Zen attitude in a life filled with interruptions. It takes too much energy. In the short run, you can choose to overpower temptation. In the long run, we become a product of the environment that we live in. To put it bluntly, I have never seen someone consistently stick to a positive habits in a negative environment. A more reliable approach is to cut bad habits off at the source. One of the most practical ways to eliminate a bad habit is to reduce exposure to the cues that cause it. Now, hey, if you can't seem to get any work done, leave your phone in another room for a few hours. If you're constantly feeling like you're not enough, stop following social media accounts that trigger jealousy and envy. If you're wasting too much time watching television, move the TV out of the bedroom. If you're spending too much money on electronics, quit reading reviews of the latest tech gear. If you're playing too many video games, unplug the console and put it in the closet after each use. This practice is an inversion of the first law of behavior change. Rather than make it obvious, you make it invisible. I'm often surprised by how effective simple changes like these can be. Remove a single cue and the entire habit often fades away. Self-control is a short-term strategy, not a long-term one. You may be able to resist temptation once or twice, but it's unlikely you can muster the willpower to override your desires every time. Instead of summoning a new dose of willpower whenever you want to do the right thing, your energy would be better spent optimizing your environment. This is the secret of self-control. Make the cues of your good habits obvious and the cues of your bad habits invisible. Let me say that again for the people in the back. Make the cues of your good habits obvious. Make the cues of your bad habits invisible. I want you to think about right now, because we're talking about an easy way to, a proven way to build good habits and to break bad ones. And he got me right there with that video game thing, right? I could self-control all day long not to play the video game, but it's gonna keep getting me up. What's the best way for me to stop playing it? I probably just need to remove the app off my phone. You know what I'm saying? I probably just need to uninstall. And I might, and I definitely won't be playing as much because it's going to take too much effort for me to reinstall in order to play it. Let me read this again. A more reliable approach is to cut bad habits off at the source. One of the most practical ways to eliminate bad habits is to reduce exposure to the cues that cause it. If you can't seem to get any of the work done, leave your phone in another room for a few hours. If you're constantly feeling like you're not enough, stop following social media accounts that trigger jealousy and envy. If you're wasting too much time watching television, move the TV out of the bedroom. If you're spending too much money on electronics, quit reading reviews on the latest tech gear. If you're playing too many video games, unplug the console and put it in the closet after each use. This practice is an inversion of the first law of behavior, which is change. Rather than make it obvious, you make it invisible. I'm often surprised by how effective simple changes like these can be. Remove a single cue and the entire habit often fades away. Self-control is a short-term strategy, not a long-term one. You may be able to resist temptation once or twice, but it's unlikely you can muster the willpower to override your desires every time. Instead of summoning a new dose of willpower whenever you want to do the right thing, your energy will be better spent optimizing your environment. This is the secret to self-control. Make the cues of your good habits obvious and the cues of your bad habits invisible. Well, here we're going to do a little summary, guys. We've got a little chapter summary. The key points from what we have kind of covered today as we're into the book Atomic Habits in chapter 7, The Secrets to Self-Control. First point, the inversion of the first law of behavior is to make it invisible. The inversion of the first law of behavior change is to make it invisible. Point number 2, once a habit is formed, it is unlikely to be forgotten. Point number 3, people with high self-control tend to spend less time in tempting situations. It's easier to avoid temptation than to resist it. Point number 4, one of the most practical ways to eliminate a bad habit is to reduce exposure to the cue that causes it. And point number 5, self-control is a short-term strategy, not a long-term strategy. And that is going to actually complete the first law, which is the first law of behavior change, which is make it obvious. And then we learned today about the inversion of that law, which is make it invisible. So we want to make the good stuff in our life, we want to make it obvious. And the inversion of that, the bad things that we want to reduce or want to get out of our life, of our own habits, make them invisible. And then we won't do it. We won't have to worry about it. We won't have to deal with it because it's out of sight and it's out of mind. Well, beautiful people, I say thanks so much for your time joining us here today. Again, the book, in case you want to pick it up, Atomic Habits by James Clear. This is chapter number 7, the Secret to Self-Control. I'm your host, ERGJ, certified global financial educator. I don't do this just to do this. I do this to make a difference. I believe if we take more time as a people, as a community, to make some time to read, we'll begin to get clarity in our thoughts. We'll be able to fix our mind, get our mind right. Because we'll start thinking right? We're putting good stuff in and we're going to start getting good results. So 30 minutes a day, my beautiful people, to keep broke and stupid away. I want you guys to remember this, man. It takes a village. It starts with us. Let's build as we climb together. We all we got, beautiful people. Matter of fact, we're all we really need. Thank God that's more than enough. Until next episode, you know what time it is. Mr. DJ, hit the music.
New black. It's the New Black Wall Street Book Club. With your host, Evan Jefferson. It's time for us to go. Yeah. Now, you ain't got to leave the computer, but we encourage you to get out there and learn and apply all the things you learn at the New Black Wall Street Book Club. Yeah. New Black Wall Street.